All right, let's go to the Eastern Conference Finals. Which, Wes, I gotta tell you, they feel over to you.
Yes. Especially, and at the time of us recording this, we don't have any clarity on Tyrese Halliburton. But if this is, even if he's not sidelined, but if this is an injury that makes him look like he looked when he was injured during the regular season, then the series is most certainly over. I think the Pacers could still make it competitive if this is just like if that was just like a 1 game thing and he can get back to what he was at the tail end of that Knicks series and what he was in game 1. But he didn't look right in game 2. He was struggling even before the injury, just 10 points, not great shooting, wasn't involved as a playmaker, had a hard time getting into the teeth of Boston's defense and spraying out and doing all those things that you want him to do. So if Halliburton is in any way limited, then yes, the series is over. I still feel really good about the Celtics. I don't think anybody's really, for real, picking the Pacers at this stage. I just think that the Celtics are too good. They're getting whatever they want offensively. It's just good possession after good possession after good possession. And defensively, they go on these 4 to 5 minute stretches that basically have decided both of these games. And that's the formula. And frankly, that's all they need. They're not going to need any huge performances. They got the miracle shot from Jaylen Brown at the end of game 1. I think they figured out what they needed to do in game 2. They did it, and I think they're going to roll on to the finals.
Jason Tatum is shooting 27% from 3 in these playoffs, and it hasn't meant a damn thing.
Yep. That's why Derek White was the number 1 pick.
Shut up. Derek White, 20 plus 2,200 at BetMGM to win Finals MVP is just like staring me in the face as like Andre Iguodala wins Finals MVP stuff.
That's a great value. Put $10 on it.
Yeah, get your money back. That or Jaylen Brown at plus 475. Just like if Boston's going to win it, I don't think Jason Tatum is like going to win Finals MVP. Just feels like everything that has happened in these playoffs is telling me that like that's not how this is going to go. There's no indicators that like Tatum is going to like have that kind of like coronation as like he led them there. It's going to be like the Celtics process and organization like gets them over the hump more than like he got them there is kind of like what I'm taking from this more than anything else.
Mm-hmm. I think that look, my biggest concern with the Celtics is that the conversation around Boston has been so convoluted in that, okay, their playoff run has been easy, and is that fair? And where does it rank among the easiest playoff teams ever? And whatever. Like, to me, that's not really the point, right? Like, if you want to just sort of hate on the Celtics, go ahead. Like, be my guest. Like, I'm here with that. Like, that's fine. But if you want to just knock their fans and be like whatever.
I mean, I am curious to see how the fan base like reacts to like the first game when it's Luka or Ant and one of them drops 40 in the finals.
Oh, we see.
Like,
it.
I am curious.
In Boston. No, I mean the fans in Boston are so nervous about this team that every time the opponent scores on 2 straight possessions, they go silent, and you never hear that from a Boston crowd at TD Garden. You never hear that. It's been the weirdest, most roller coaster ride crowd, and I get it. I understand why they're nervous. And any Celtics fans that says this year it's different, we're different this time. We're gonna get over the hump. We're the best team. 7+17 net rating in the regular season. Jordan and Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Warriors. Like, okay, you could say that out loud, but what your fans are saying when they go quiet after the other team goes on a little mini run is that they are still worried about the inner fabric of this team. And I don't think that fabric has been tested in these playoffs. And that's not to knock the playoff run. That is to make a point that I don't think that the Celtics now are better than they were at the end of the regular season. And I think that the Timberwolves have gotten better since the end of the regular season. The Mavericks have gotten better since the end of the regular season. And so you can take all of your net ratings, throw that in the garbage. It don't matter. It doesn't matter. The teams in the West have gotten better. They have been stress tested, and they've come through the other side better for it in a way that the Celtics haven't. And that, if I'm the Celtics, is a thing that worries me if and when I eventually make it to the finals and I have to play one of these 2 teams.
Yeah, I am genuinely curious to see like how a team that has not really had adversity that isn't of their own creation deals with actual adversity. Like Brendan has been like kind of teasing me about like me like bringing this up like over text and when we've talked about it on the show as like, are you really like you bring this up a lot? It's like, yeah, because I want to see it. Like NBA champions are, I think, like, you go through stuff. Teams talk about this. The Heat, I talked about this a lot during their improbable run of the finals. The Cavs, during their 3-1 comeback, talked about everything they went through that made that possible. Like, you don't get there in a vacuum. And it's also like, it's West, it's like counterbalanced by the fact, to me, by two things. Number one, they're going to be fresher. Like, the West is an absolute slugfest of a boxing match of who's going to make it out. Boston's going to show up just like no cuts, like Porzingis like aside, and I think they will need him to win the finals.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're going to be in as good a shape as you possibly can be. Knock on wood,
Probably,
injuries now and then, right? They're in great shape in that sense. Number two, I think Jaylen Brown is playing the best basketball I've ever seen him play. It is confidence we've ever seen him play. And if he plays like this going into the finals and Tatum is like 5% better, that duo, like, that might just be like enough paired with Derek White. Like, it might. Like, it's not a guarantee, but if you look at like what, like, let's say the Wolves do figure this out in advance, let's say. The Wolves are struggling with one big wing right now in Luka, and we'll get to that. Do they have the stopping two, even with their bigs? Is that something they're structurally ready to do? Are we sure Derek White and PJ Washington and Dante Exum and Luka, like, who's a little beat up, are up like that? Like, there are questions that Boston has, I think, answers to, but these things feel at odds to each other to me with them is the biggest thing. They just, all of the stuff with them feels at odds, butting up against each other with I want to see teams go through it and process stuff and grow from the playoffs. But it's not their fault they haven't had to, and like they should be like they're clearly very good at the same time.
So you're putting on Jaylen Brown. I do think you're onto something there. He, to me, was always the guy that felt so much in this season. Now that they went Joe Mazzulla, Masball, 5 out, all this stuff, he was always sort of the one who doesn't belong, the odd man out a little bit. He just seemed a little bit different than the others, and I think that was seen as a bug for a long time. I think it's a feature. And
yeah,
they're going to need that. They're going to need that guy who's like, screw your 5-out offense, screw all the pretty screening for each other, BS. We get it that Jason Tatum is a really great screener now, and every Boston fan will tell you that. Like, he doesn't need to score because he screens now, and it's like, all right, cool, dude. Like, whatever. Like,
you don't make as much money as he does, and are as talented as him to screen. You know?
And like, it's not even just Celtics fans. Like, the Celtics themselves, like, we don't care that he's shooting 30% overall. Like, the guy sets good screens and he's a good playmaker and he's unselfish. It's like, okay, well, sometimes you just need your better player to be selfish and do something. And Jaylen Brown has been doing that for them. That's kind of been Jaylen Brown's role. Like, if the whole Celtics thing is sort of this Swiss movement watch that just moves pretty and smoothly, like, Jaylen Brown is just like the hammer that smashes the watch, and he's like, screw your stupid watch. I'm going at the basket. And they need that. They need that. They need that element in the offense. And I think that there's been so much conversation around like who's the most important Celtic, right? And some people will say it's Derek White. Some galaxy brain people will say it's Kristaps Porzingis. Some people will just go with the best player, and that's Jason Tatum. It might end up being Jaylen Brown because I think everybody else sets the highest floor in the playoffs. The Celtics have the highest floor of any team in the playoffs. Every possession is a good possession. They get a good shot on nearly every possession, and their defense is at such a level that they have the highest floor. Jaylen Brown might be the ceiling raiser to me. And I think a lot of Celtics fans want that to be Jason Tatum. And I don't know that Tatum has that in him. Maybe he does. He definitely could. We'll see. But it has not been the case in these playoffs. More often than not, it's been Jaylen Brown. When he has a great game, like he did in Game 2, that Celtics team looks unstoppable. So there's all that. I just wonder, again, the stress of, like, the part of the adversity that you're talking about going through the playoffs is that it forces you to solve puzzles. And the playoffs, just as much as talent, it's about problem solving. It's about solving those puzzles. The Celtics, this is why I said I don't think they're better than they were at the end of the regular season, is because they haven't figured out counters to anything. They haven't gotten pushed into a corner and figured out a way to get them to punch themselves out of it. Figured out new ways to play, new schemes. And maybe ultimately they're so good that the scheme that they had in Game 1 is just as good as the scheme they'll have in the NBA Finals, and that's all they're going to need. Perhaps that's the case. I just have a hard time seeing that because I've never seen a team win a championship that way. And I think what Minnesota and Dallas have learned about themselves is that they have those counters and they have the fortitude. and they have that ability to just sort of change on the fly. We've seen it not just from game to game, but quarter to quarter, possession to possession, in a way that I just haven't really seen it from the Celtics. And it's not to say that they can't do it, but I know for a fact that the Timberwolves and Mavericks can, and they're practiced at it. And that might just be the thing that takes the Celtics for a loop. That could be an adjustment for a game or two for them is, oh my gosh, this is just a higher level of play than we've been accustomed to.
The Celtics, by design, almost try to solve puzzles before they get out of the box. Like, as maybe the way I would describe it. It's like they're like
in the regular season. They experiment.
Yeah, but no, I mean even now it's like what my point is, Wes. It's like they have the way they play. And, like, what is in front of them doesn't really matter, almost. It doesn't feel like. Jaylen Brown's the only one who is almost like, yeah, I'm going to, like, drive right now because I have a small T.J. McConnell or, like, Aaron Nesmith can't guard me. You know what I mean? It's like everyone else is like, well, we kind of do this thing. Like, we don't really have to solve the puzzle. Like, we kind of know how this works. We just kind of hit the buttons and it works. Like, that's kind of what they are. I will say if there's one thing I did like for them tactically the rest of the series, I did feel like it opened things up for them after a tight first quarter. Maybe because Cornette got hurt, they did this, but O'Shea Brissett is like more switchable for them. I think that's a good addition, but I think they won a game 2 for the first time in the playoffs, so they did improve. I guess we can say
congrats to them for that. Never mind. Everything I said, strike it.
Yeah, they won a game 2. Congratulations.